Good to see you guys. We are in, and have been in for a long time, a study on the book of Acts. So if you have a Bible with you, you can multitask as that bag is being passed to open up to Acts chapter 11. Acts chapter 11. We will be finished with Acts just before Christmas time, but it's been a great journey that we started back in April. We are in Acts chapter 11. What we've been noticing on this journey through Acts is a lot of different things that made the early church distinct. They didn't blend in, they stood out. They were distinct. They were so distinct, in fact, that the culture around them began to take notice. They began to take notice to the degree that they even came up with a name that we're going to see today. I referenced it last week. If you're there in Acts chapter 11, we're going to look at a short little passage, verse 26 through 30 today. Acts 11, 26 through 30. Now, one of the things that we're going to see, and we've been seeing a lot of different things that made the early church distinct, but we're going to look at today, one of the things that made the early church distinct was their generosity. Their generosity. Try saying that 5-syllable, I think, word with me on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Generosity. All right, everyone, on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Generosity. Generosity, all right? So this is what we're going to be looking at. And some of you have been noticing as we started out in chapter 1, this was one of the things. This was one of the things. We see the early church that they had a very loose grip on their stuff and a very tight grip on Jesus. They were a generous group of people. Generosity was one of their distinctives. And we see this certainly in Acts chapter 11. Look there at verse 26. It says this, the disciples were called Christians first at Antioch. Now, a couple things here. Antioch in chapter 11 is different than the Antioch in chapter 13. All right, so there's a couple Antiochs, not to be confused. This Antioch in chapter 11 is the Antioch of Syria. This is one of the most diverse cities in the world at their time. I like to kind of picture it as like New York City, Grand Central Station. Where Antioch in Syria was located was, if you wanted to get any goods around the world, they would go through this Antioch. Very, very diverse city. And what we see beginning to happen in Antioch is there was a group of people whose hearts had been so captured by the gospel that gospel identity manifested itself into outrageous love and outrageous generosity, to the degree that their city needed to name them, and they named them Christians. My question for us, and I'll keep on moving, I just want to ask it though, what would our city name us today? Let's keep going. I'm just going to leave it right there. Verse 27. During this time, some prophets came down from Jerusalem to Antioch. I told you guys a number of weeks ago that we got to keep one eye on Acts 1, verse 8. This is where Jesus said to his disciples that you're going to go, all right? And you're going to be my witnesses everywhere, to the ends of the earth, in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, to the ends of the earth. Acts 1:8, we got to continually look at as we read the rest of Acts. And what's cool right here is we see that Jesus' commission is becoming a reality. Right now, in Acts chapter 11, the movement, the gospel is 300 miles away from where Jesus first said it. It's grown, it's moving, it's expanding. God is growing his church. This movement is happening. It is 300 miles away from Jerusalem. Verse 28, one of them named Agabus. Everyone say Agabus. Agabus, right? Not to be confused with Megabus. That's a different thing, all right? So Agabus, he stood up, it says, through the Spirit, so not through his own power, but through the Spirit's power, he predicted that a severe famine would spread over the entire Roman world. So Agabus, he's there in Antioch, and he makes this prediction. A severe famine is coming. We have there in parentheses that this actually did happen through the reign of Claudius. Now, I want us to zoom in and really focus on verse 29. I'll pull it up on the screen for you. It says this, the disciples. Like the primary thing that I really want to talk about today is what it looks like to be a disciple of Jesus. It says the disciples, as each one was able, decided to provide help for the brothers and sisters living in, look where it says, not living in Antioch, that would make sense, living in Judea. This they did, sending their gift to the elders by Barnabas and Saul. Let's think about what's going on here in this verse. They provided a future need, hundreds of miles away for people they possibly didn't even know. I mean, think about this. Who does this? I mean, they are providing a future need. It wasn't even a current need. It was a future need. The famine was coming. And we see the first Christians in Antioch provide this future need for a people hundreds of miles away. Who does this? Disciples do this. Men and women who live and love with the generosity of Jesus do this. Disciples do this. I have bolded in my notes here, discipleship is the deal. And maybe it's the first time you've ever heard of that term, discipleship, or some of you grew up in church and you're over it. And I've been praying that you wouldn't get over it. Discipleship is the deal. I'm praying you hear that loud and clear. Discipleship is the deal. Like, we are called to be and make disciples. Discipleship is the deal. Why? Here's why. Discipleship is entering into a life of becoming. It's entering into a life of becoming more than a decision. It's a life of becoming, which means ongoing correction is required. If you're taking notes on the church app, I have some fill in the blanks for you. Discipleship is a life of becoming that often requires ongoing correction. How many of you love to be corrected? You're like, yeah, it's just weird. I just love to be corrected. Some of you are like, you have this reaction when someone tries to correct you. You've been running from correction your whole life. That's a problem when it comes to being a disciple of Jesus. We enter into this life of becoming. And I know next week's going to be amazing. You're going to get baptized, going public. But in the church, for some reason, that's become a finish line. It's never meant to be that. It's the starting line of what? Of this life of becoming more and more like Jesus. And guess what? As we live this life of becoming, it is a life filled with ongoing correction. Ongoing correction. So I was talking to God about, like, how do I talk about this ongoing correction thing? And this little just picture dropped in my mind. Next Monday, not tomorrow, but next Monday is a big day in the life of the Peacock home because we're getting another dog. And the dog people are clapping. The cat people are angry. It's okay. No, just kidding. God loves you. So I'm getting another hunting dog. This is very exciting, a pointer, and I'm showing restraint to not talk about pheasant hunting right now, so I'm going to focus. But I'm getting this hunting dog. We're driving up to the Twin Cities to bring him home. I'll get emotional if I talk a lot about this, but I'm very excited. I've been waiting a while for this new dog because 2 years ago I had to put down my chocolate lab. Thank you. The dog people just responded. Some of you have had to do this. It was one of the worst days of my life. 13 years old. I've never talked publicly about this, so I'm going to try to hold it together. Her name was Remy, short for Remington. And, just been thinking about her. And, I got her when she was really little as well, just a little puppy. And I was just remembering, because I love to train hunting dogs. I was just remembering my time with Remy. And one of the important things that you have to teach really any dog is how to heel. Show of hands, how many of you, that rings a bell, you've heard of this before, heel. And I was just remembering my time with Remy, and I had this collar around her neck, and I had this leash, and we go for walks, but I'm a runner, so I would run a lot with her. And I just remember the early days when she was really young. I had to use that leash a lot. And what that is when you're walking or running with your dog, you're teaching them to heel, constantly you're correcting them. Constantly you're correcting them. You're not correcting them because you're mad or you don't like them. It's actually out of a place of love. You're correcting them over and over and over and over again. You're correcting them. But as Remy was about 3 years old, she didn't need the leash anymore. And I just have this picture in my mind because we would run miles and miles together. There I was running my 10-minute mile pace and running faster than I thought. But I would be running. It's just the coolest picture. She didn't need a leash anymore. And what she would do, some of my friends remember this, she would literally keep stride with her master, me. And some of you, and some of us, and certainly me at times, resist being corrected by our master. We oftentimes can think he's just ganging up on us, or he's just bigger than us, he's over just powering us. No. His vision for your life is that you would keep stride. His vision for your life is that you would literally keep stride with Jesus. This is what a mature disciple looks like. They keep stride with Jesus, and this is what we are seeing in the city of Antioch. For disciples to have this kind of generosity, to be in stride with Jesus, at least two mindsets need to be corrected. So I'm going to try to talk about these just for a little bit. Two mindsets that need to be corrected as a disciple of Jesus. Some of you really want to be disciples of Jesus. Others of you, you're not sure yet. But those of us that are really, really interested and want to lean in, here's what we have. We got to have two mindsets shifted. This first mindset that I can often have, I'll go first, is that more is greater than enough. No one had to teach me this. I can have this mindset that more is greater than enough. Show of hands, how many of you remember the first paycheck you ever got? All right, some of us. Some of you students, it wasn't that long ago. For some, it was a really long time ago. I was thinking back to the first paycheck I ever got. I was 12 years old. I wanted a dog, not to kind of spend a lot of time on dogs today, but my dad said no. I'm like, please, Dad. He said, okay, fine, if you go get a job. But technically it was illegal to employ a 12-year-old. But I was a different kind of 12-year-old. I said, I will find someone that will hire me. And so I rode around Roselle until I found someone to hire me. And I got hired, I can now say this publicly without anyone getting in trouble, I got hired by Frank's Butcher Shop. Now, some of you that have been around Roselle for a long time, you remember this place. I worked at Frank's Butcher Shop as a 12-year-old. That's right. And I remember that day when he handed me this piece of paper. It wasn't just paper, baby. It was payday. And he handed me this check, man, and I just kept looking at it and looking at it and looking at it. Why? Because on it said John Peacock. Oh, yeah. I was being paid $4.25 an hour. And that first paycheck, man, I'm like, what am I going to do with all this? I mean, should I go to Cheryl's? Should I buy some baseball cards? Like, what am I going to do with all this money? But then something immediately happened. I went from being so excited to quickly saying, I want more. I actually want more. I mean, things are going pretty good at Frank's, but what if I applied at some other places in town? I mean, $4.25 is okay, but what if I could get tips on top of that? All of a sudden, I wanted more. And here's what I failed to do. It's what we oftentimes fail to do. We fail to clarify how much more. Really. This is all of us. I mean, how much more do I really need to feel like I have enough? Don't leave me up here. I mean, how much more do I really need, and do you really need to feel like we have enough? What grows is the belief that we need more, and the belief that there is not enough. And so we scramble for more and more and more and more. We're running the rat race looking for more and more and more just to make sure that we have enough. But this mindset that I'm describing is one of the great villains of generosity. It's called the scarcity mindset. There's not enough. I need more. Scarcity, you know what it does? It scares the generosity right out of us. Here in the book of Acts, it is so striking to me how when they receive the news from Agabus, their response isn't, how are we going to survive? Like, this was going to affect them too. The response is, how can we help them survive? How did this happen? They had a different mindset. More isn't greater than enough, not for a disciple of Jesus. No, enough is greater than more. Enough is greater than more. A scarcity mindset is slayed by an abundance mindset. Disciples of Jesus believe that God is more than enough, that he is good, and if he takes care of the flowers in the field and the birds in the air and all those other animals, how much more is he going to take care of me? Right? Disciples of Jesus that keep in stride with him, they believe that every good and perfect gift, it comes down from the Father. They actually believe that God loves to take care of his children. They believe that he is our provider. Disciples of Jesus believe that God isn't out to get them. No, he's out to bless them. He wants to care for them. He wants to provide for them. I want you to honestly assess today. Is more greater than enough? Or is enough greater than more? I want you to assess that. And some of you, for a lot of reasons, you quickly go to this place of self-condemnation. Don't go there. This is God wanting to bring correction. He's applying some pressure so you could keep in stride with him. The second mindset, that God will correct. At least for me, it hasn't been a one and done thing. It's actually been multiple times. That he will correct over and over again is all around ownership. Ownership. I have an 8 and 6-year-old, and there's a lot of words I had to teach them, but there's one word I never had to teach them. It's the word mine. You have kids like me too? Right? We're all that way, aren't we? Right? Mine. Mine. What is this? It is when mine is greater than his. Mine, for some, has become greater than his. I earned it, you say. I made it happen. I'm the rainmaker. I'm the guy. You don't, John, you don't understand this. I'm the guy. I made this happen. Because I made it happen, guess what? It's mine. I mean, going back to my first paycheck, my favorite part of the paycheck wasn't even the amount, mainly because it wasn't that much money. My favorite part of the paycheck is that it was not made out to Walt Peacock. All right, he would have sent mom to Aldi or something. No, it was made out to me. I was walking around just, see that? Jon. No H needed. Jon. Hey, Dad, Mom, if you're wondering, this is mine. Okay, this is mine. I made it happen. I got out there. I rode my bike there and got that job. I interviewed well to get that job. Okay? And because I made it happen, you know, it's mine. I was thinking about the day when Frank, in the back, I was always in the back, he had to hide me. And he's like, John, today's a big day. Today, I'm going to teach you how to make Frank's, speaking of himself, Frank's famous, and let me reiterate, famous potato salad. I mean, talk about pressure for a 12-year-old, right? And he hands me the recipe, and he's like, don't mess this up because it's famous, all right? And I just remember, I just can remember, I mean, it's kind of gross, but elbow deep. Sorry if some of you used to shop there. Elbow deep. Right, man, I boiled those potatoes and got it all in there, man, just elbow deep making Frank's famous potato salad. And I remember this, looking at that paycheck, saying, God, you weren't in there boiling potatoes. I was. I made this happen. Because I made it happen, it's mine. It's mine. One of the great villains of the generosity of Jesus is the scarcity mindset, but also the ownership mindset. A book that has the potential to ruin your month, but make your year, is a book I highly recommend you read. It's called Counterfeit Gods by Tim Keller. I want to read a couple excerpts from it. They've really helped me. I'm on this journey, too, of being a disciple of Jesus. So listen to this. Yeah, some of you are not going to like this one at all, but let me start here. People at the top are eager to attribute their position to their own intellect, savvy, and hard work. The reality is much more complicated. Personal connections, family environment, and what appears to be plain luck determine how successful a person is. We are the product of 3 things: genetics, environment, and our personal choices. But 2 of these 3 factors we have no power over. We are not nearly as responsible for our success as our popular views of God and reality lead us to think. I don't like that. I guess you guys like that. No, I'll go first. I don't really like that. Right? And here's what this doesn't mean. It doesn't mean you didn't work hard. That's not what I'm saying. It doesn't mean right, you didn't show up early or stay late or whatever, It doesn't mean that you didn't go the extra mile. It doesn't mean that you weren't wise. It just means that God has a lot more to do with your success than we often give him credit for. It just means that God has been in the background, helping, giving us energy, giving us mental ability, a lot more than we even realize. Now, I find it interesting that the times when American Christians get the angriest at people who do my job, it's when they preach on money. Right? So if you just want to not only shrink your church, but end your church, just talk about money as much as Jesus did. Okay? No one will come anymore. Viscerally, people, I'll get emails. They're pissed. Oh, I couldn't say that at church. They're really mad. They're grumpy. Guys, I just think that's telling. I think that should be a red flag. Listen to this next one from Keller. When anything in life is an absolute requirement for your happiness and self-worth, it is essentially an idol. Something you are actually worshiping. When such a thing is threatened, your anger is absolute. This is why anger is one of the best things that can help you grow. When you're most angry, God is saying you need to pay attention to some things. And some of you, it's when you're corrected. That's why you leave every team, you leave every job. You can't work for anybody, can't be on any team. Because you got to be in charge. You can't be corrected. Get so angry. All right? Your anger is actually the way the idol keeps you in its service, in its chains. But here's the thing about a disciple of Jesus. The more they mature, they don't get angry when certain topics are preached on, or when they read the Bible and it's preaching to them. They don't get angry, they get introspective. They do. They get really, really introspective. They don't lash out, they look in. One of the questions they might ask is, God, are any of my possessions possessing me? Really? Oh, that's a scary one. That's a scary one. Are any of my possessions possessing me? And some of you right now, you want to leave and call it a bathroom break. No, I just had to go to the bathroom. No, you didn't. Right? Here, I got to come back to that picture of me and my dog running stride for stride. This isn't God just wanting to steal everything from you. He has a picture of freedom for your life. And so he's going to provide correction and correction and correction, because one day he sees you keeping stride with Jesus. And this topic, living with the generosity of Jesus. Disciples of Jesus, they have a different kind of mindset. It's this: his is greater than mine. They believe the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. That God owns cattle on 1,000 hills. One of my favorite Old Testament phrases, just say, he's got plenty of stuff. He owns it all. There's no downturn in heaven's economy. Right? Here's how a disciple lives. Disciples, this is what they believe. They own nothing. What? Yeah, they own nothing, but steward everything. And this is advanced level for a lot of people, right? This is hard stuff. Disciples own nothing, but steward everything. Stewardship slays the villain of ownership. Stewardship does. A steward is a wise manager of everything God has entrusted to them. The Greek behind this English word speaks of a man or woman who is a guardian. I love that picture. A guardian of all the good things God has given to them. Disciples own nothing but steward everything. And by the way, this is a very freeing place to be. It's a freeing way to live, to steward everything, to be found as good managers, faithful guardians of what God has entrusted to them. Let's do some honest assessment. Is mine greater than his, or is his greater than mine? I want to finish. I got a few minutes left. I want to get to the most exciting part of my message. I can tell you guys just can't take it any longer. So let me get to some exciting stuff. We have an ice cream truck now. We don't have an ice cream truck outside. Just kidding. I shouldn't have done that. That was mean. Sorry. I'll make up for it. So we're on this 2-year generosity journey called Never the Same. Bunch of us are on it. I want all of us on it. If you're brand new to mission, maybe this is your first church, or you're coming from a rough church experience, I'm not talking to you. You need time to heal. You need time to hang out, for a while, perhaps. Okay, so keep doing that. But for those of us that we're in, we call mission, these are our people. This is our community, this is our family. I want all of us in on this. I want all of us in on this, on what we're calling Never the Same. Why? A lot of reasons. One of those is there's a spiritual famine in our city. we believe that we can help more people find what they've been looking for their entire life. They just never knew it was Jesus. And we believe we can do it better at 82 Stratford Drive. Now here's the thing, we're not doing that for us because we're here. It's worked just fine here. If it was just for us, we'd stay here. But it's never been and never will be just about us. Why? Because we're keeping stride with Jesus. Always giving himself. Love demands that we always give generously everything that we have. There's a spiritual famine in our city. And today, what I want to encourage us to step into is not us closing the gap. There's $1 million gap for us to hit our full funding. And I've been working on this sermon for 3 weeks, and I was planning to, in this moment, be like, all right, let's close the gap. Who wants to write big checks? Which always works, by the way. I felt God just kind of tug a little bit on the leash. I felt some pressure, some correction. And God lifted my eyes a little bit to say, hey, John, mission has always been my idea. And since the very beginning, you've been a church that hasn't just been about the brand of mission. You've been a church that's loved other churches. And so, yeah, there's a spiritual famine in the 10, but there is a spiritual famine all over the place. And what God began to speak to my heart over the past few weeks is, hey, instead of giving today to mission, what if we give to a different church? So, more than you doing something today, I want you to be something. I want you to be generous. And God has put on our hearts a church in downtown Chicago, New Creation Church. You met its pastor a number of weeks ago, Pastor Ricky Brown. Now, Facebook Live, don't post anything yet to Ricky. Don't tag him right now. He doesn't know this is happening. Okay, we're going to surprise him this week. He has no idea this is happening. You need to ask for any of this. But I just feel like we can support an inner city church that I believe is going to help with racial reconciliation, that I believe can actually curb some of the violence in one of the most violent cities in the world. All right? Downtown Chicago isn't Roselle or Bloomingdale. It's not the 10. Doesn't mean we have to move there. You might need to. But it means there are times where we can give and we can say that the mission, the kingdom, is not just about Mission Church. Oh, it's so much bigger. It's so much more beautiful than that. And so I want us to just give to a people that we may never meet, miles away. So we're going to do that. Well, I'm at least going to do that. I think John's going to do it too. Hopefully John will do it. All right, we're going to do that. So there's times where we do these spontaneous gives. They're some of our favorite Sundays. We don't plan for them. We let the Spirit make it all happen, okay? So this is one of those times. The way we do it mainly is through a text-to-give service. It works super well. The instructions are going to come up on the screen, on the side screens. The instructions will be there for you on Facebook Live. Jackie, I love what you said to those on Facebook Live. We love that you are engaging in Facebook Live, but this one costs money today. All right? I want you to be generous. I want you to be generous. This coming week, I think it's on Wednesday, Pastor Mark Wittig and Daniel, they're going to go down to Chicago and just totally surprise them. We designed a huge, obnoxious check, and we're going to write in there the amount of whatever. I don't know how much is going to be given today. You didn't plan for this, okay? Neither did the church at Antioch. But when they were made aware of something that was going on miles away with a people group they didn't know and may never meet, the Spirit moved. And so I want you to give if the Spirit's moving. I want you to do something. More than that, I want you to be something. I want us to be generous today. Some of you, if you don't have a phone, you can write a check in the memo line. Just write Chicago, and we'll know how that needs to get there. But yeah, we're going to text to give. I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to do this. I'm just curious, Mission, do you like giving to other churches outside of Mission? Is that something that fires you up? I know it does. I love that it does. Last thing, I'm over time. I want us to just be real careful with self-preservation. I just think over time, as God continues to do some really special things, there's just going to be easy for us to think it's all about mission. It's just really not. It never has been. Or we got to preserve mission. No, I just think we need to be here. And I think we'll be amazed at what God chooses to do in and through this church. So let's give. As the Spirit leads you, I want you to give to that. Text to give. The instructions are on the screen. Tommy and the band will play some music for a little while, then he'll probably invite you to stand up at some point. God, thank you for a topic that is, we like, it's hard. It's hard to preach. It's hard to hear. But we are disciples of Jesus Christ. And more becoming disciples of Jesus Christ who make disciples of Jesus Christ. And we believe you have a vision that we would keep in stride with you because we abide. We believe that you actually long for us to live with the generosity of Jesus. And so God, I'm just asking for an abundance mindset to infiltrate our church, a stewardship mindset to infiltrate our church in increasing ways. God, we ask that every dollar given right now to New Creation Church, you'd use it, God, to write a beautiful story through those wonderful friends of ours. We thank you, God, for what you're doing and what you're going to do. In Jesus' name, amen.